You're going to pay for all the pain and suffering you've caused. The reason? Because you couldn't stay beautiful. Dad, what are you talking about? I asked, my heart racing. My name is Michelle, and just moments ago, I felt a sense of achievement like never before. Today, I finally paid off my mortgage. It had been a long journey. My husband Daniel and I took out a loan right after we got married, a 35-year mortgage that we agreed to split equally. Fortunately, we managed to save a bit since the land belonged to my grandfather, and we had permission to build on it. But even with that advantage, paying back the loan was no easy task. Once our daughter Lisa, now a high schooler, was born, I found myself constantly juggling work, childcare, and housework, barely catching my breath. Daniel wasn't much help around the house, so most of the responsibilities fell on me. The only reason I could manage it all was that I worked from home. Daniel had initially promised to take on more of the financial burden, saying, "Just because you're home doesn't mean I'll dump all the work on you. I'll cover more of the finances, trust me." That promise, however, only lasted for a few years. His attitude shifted about 3 years into our mortgage repayment, right after Lisa was born. "You've got it easy being home all day. I bet you take naps when you're not up at night with Lisa. The least you can do is get the housework done," he'd say, belittling my work-from-home job. To him, it was nothing more than a hobby, just a way for me to earn some extra pocket money. But the reality was far different. Deadlines, projects, and constant demands made working from home just as stressful as any office job. And balancing that with housework and taking care of Lisa, it was exhausting. Daniel never understood that. There were times when I seriously considered leaving him. Once, I even brought up divorce, but he tearfully apologized, saying he wanted to keep our family together. And we had Lisa. I didn't want to jeopardize her future or cause her emotional distress, so I held on, trying my best to keep things together. But today, after years of sacrifice, we finally paid off the mortgage. I thought this would be a new chapter for us, a fresh start. We were celebrating at a fancy restaurant, just the three of us, when Daniel leaned in with a strange look on his face. "So, you've paid off half the mortgage now," he said casually, sliding a piece of paper across the table. "Could you sign these divorce papers?" I stared at him, stunned. The moment we achieved something monumental as a family, he asked for a divorce. I had dressed up a little more than usual and was savoring a delicious meal. It felt like a well-deserved celebration. That's when Daniel took out the divorce papers. There had been no signs leading up to this moment. "Mom, congratulations on paying off the mortgage," Lisa beamed. "Thank you, sweetheart. Now, we need to start saving for retirement," I replied, feeling relieved but already thinking ahead. "Oh no, does that mean we can't splurge?" Lisa teased. "Don't worry, we'll still enjoy ourselves, but we also need to save for things like your future study abroad program." "Thanks, Mom, I'll help with saving too. Just let me know what I can do." Lisa and I were having such a hopeful conversation. Without the mortgage, we could save more quickly, and we were optimistic about how to use our money in the future. It was touching to see my daughter, now a high schooler, mature enough to talk about these things. And then, out of nowhere, Daniel dropped a bombshell. "You know, Michelle, I just don't see you as a woman anymore. The way you've been working so hard is honestly a turn-off. I can't deal with it any longer. I'm planning to marry this younger woman I've been seeing, so could you move out?" He said it casually, completely oblivious to the shock on Lisa's and my faces. "Her name's Amelia. Want to see a picture? Isn't she cute? She's totally different from you. Even when she's working, she looks like she's having fun, not stressed at all. She's a real social butterfly, unlike you." I stared at him, disbelief freezing me in place. "Wait a minute, Daniel. The reason I've been working so hard was to pay off our family's mortgage. Do you have any idea how difficult it was to pay half on a work-from-home salary? I was also busy with all the housework, something you never helped with." "Well, housework is a woman's job, isn't it? I'm just no good at it." "I wasn't good at housework either," I shot back, "but I did it for our family. We just paid off the mortgage. Shouldn't this be our moment to enjoy together? When I suggested divorce years ago, you begged me to stay because of Lisa." "I've changed my mind since then," Daniel replied, irritation creeping into his voice. Despite being in a fancy restaurant, the mood had soured completely. "What can I say? Younger women are just more attractive. Sure, I admired how you paid off the mortgage with your little work-from-home job, but that doesn't compare to youth." "That's terrible, Dad, that's awful," Lisa interrupted, her voice sharp with anger. "Apologize to Mom, that's so rude." Lisa didn't understand. Not yet. But Daniel just shrugged, turning to me. You get it, don't you? Michelle, women are like appliances, newer models perform better, and everyone wants them, right? Comparing me to an appliance? How rude, I snapped, still trying to process the cruelty of his words. Well, I don't have any feelings for you anymore, so it's only natural I say rude things, don't you think? As for not divorcing because of Lisa, sure, I said that at the time, but it was just an excuse. Daniel's words were hitting me like a train, and before I could fully grasp the weight of what he was saying, he continued, back then, I thought using Lisa's name would make you reconsider divorce, but in reality, I wasn't thinking about her at all. I just didn't want to let go of someone who'd do the housework for me. I stared at him, stunned. Can you really say that in front of Lisa? What kind of parent are you? He shrugged, completely indifferent. What does being a parent have to do with anything? I've always put myself first. This whole sacrificing yourself for your child's sake, that's just self-satisfaction, isn't it? Don't drag me into that. His words were unbelievable. Sure, Daniel had always been a bit selfish, but I thought he still cared for Lisa in his own way. I never imagined he would say something like this so openly in front of her. Look, I feel bad leaving a woman your age all alone, Michelle, just like you. That's why I'm giving you all our assets, Daniel said, as if he were doing me some great favor. Dad, what are you talking about? You literally just told Mom to leave, Lisa retorted, her voice full of disbelief. That's why I'm giving you the money, but in exchange, I'm taking the house. Consider it alimony, he stated casually, as if this made perfect sense. Alimony? Why would Mom owe you anything? Shouldn't you be the one paying for having an affair with a younger woman? Lisa shot back, furious. It's not that simple, Lisa, your mom is at fault too. Daniel smirked. Let's call it the crime of not staying pretty, huh? Oh, and let's not forget the crime of prioritizing her daughter over her husband. He laughed out loud, taking a sip of his drink as if it were some kind of joke. Lisa's eyes blazed with anger at his nonchalance, but he didn't seem to care in the slightest. His coldness was unbearable, and yet there he was, dismissing everything like it was just a game. I felt an eerie calm wash over me, or maybe my thoughts were just frozen in shock. I couldn't grasp what was happening, it was beyond comprehension. Daniel felt like a stranger, someone entirely alien to me. He said, I'm giving you all the money, but since we've been prioritizing mortgage repayments, there isn't much left. I'm keeping the house for myself. The alimony is for not staying pretty and for prioritizing Lisa over me. None of this made any sense. I was desperately trying to find the right words to address this bizarre, alien version of Daniel. I thought involving lawyers and our families might be the practical next step, but before I could speak, Lisa jumped in. By the way, Dad, is this young woman you're talking about the one who lives about 5 stations away? She asked, her voice steady. She's a bit older than me, right? You met her about 3 months ago, didn't you? Daniel looked taken aback. What? How do you know that? Lisa, ignoring his surprise, continued while glancing at her smartphone. My friend's dad got into a similar situation recently. A woman approached him, trying to steal his attention away from his wife. But unlike you, he and his wife saw through her intentions and kept her at bay. Daniel's face flushed with anger. Lisa, how can you talk to me like that? I'm just telling the truth, Lisa said calmly. I heard that the situation at my friend's house was tough for a while, but what's important is what comes next. It seems this Amelia targets men who are already in relationships. She likes the thrill of stealing them, rather than genuinely liking them. Daniel's face went pale as Lisa showed a few photos from her phone. Look at this. The first photo is of my club senior being approached by her. The second is of a classmate of mine. Both of them have girlfriends, and Amelia told them, look at me, not your girlfriend. What does that mean? I asked, confused. It means she enjoys taking other people's men, Lisa explained. She doesn't genuinely like them, she just enjoys the chase. Daniel seemed stunned, his face blank for a moment. Then, regaining his composure, he shot back defensively. No, Amelia isn't like that. Don't spread lies. I love her, and she loves me. Stop making false accusations just because you're a high schooler, he added, frustration evident in his voice. Even high schoolers should know a thing or two. Lisa remained unshaken. Dad, what about the reason for the alimony? The so-called sin of prioritizing your daughter and not staying pretty. What kind of joke is that? It's not funny at all. Daniel's anger flared. That's no way to talk to your parent. You're being disrespectful. Lisa responded firmly, and you're being really rude to Mom, claiming alimony for such bizarre reasons. The house is in Mom's name, right? And when it comes to the mortgage, Mom was the one who paid more, especially under the guise of child support. The contributions to household chores have been vastly different, too. If you really want a divorce, you should cover the cost of the house, which is in Mom's name. That includes the full price of the land. And the one who should leave the house after paying alimony and enjoying yourself with Amelia is you, Dad. At Lisa's words, Daniel seemed momentarily at a loss. Perhaps, deep down, he recognized he was on the losing end of this argument but was unwilling to admit it. He tried to counter Lisa's points, his desperation evident. You're just trying to avoid the divorce and making up stories. Amelia doesn't have a hobby of stealing husbands. She told me I was her destiny, Daniel blustered, his face reddening. Lisa, unfazed by Daniel's protest, continued to examine the menu with excitement, seemingly indifferent to his attempts at justification. Daniel's frustration grew. Amelia and I are bound by true love. You're just trying to interfere with that. You could even pay the alimony as an apology for that. Lisa responded with mock enthusiasm. Oh, really? I didn't realize you knew so much. Despite being just a high schooler, if you're so certain, why not involve a lawyer? Daniel stammered. What? You think you're right, don't you? But Mom won't accept such an absurd alimony claim. Yes, it's clear that Mom won't accept such a ridiculous claim. Lisa agreed. So let's do this. We'll finalize the divorce papers today, and we can deal with the alimony and property division with a lawyer later. It's settled then. We'll handle it when we get home. Let's focus on dessert for now, Lisa said, her tone final and calm. Despite being initially taken aback by Daniel's incomprehensible statements, his words gave me the courage I needed. Regardless of who Amelia was, I could no longer be with Daniel. If he couldn't live with us, then there was only one thing left to do. I took a deep breath and signed the divorce papers. The three of us then quietly finished our dessert and left the restaurant. The following day, we went to the city hall to submit the divorce papers. The divorce was finalized, and Daniel and I began living separately in weekly rental apartments. Of course, I stayed with Lisa throughout the process. We each hired lawyers, and began discussions about dividing the assets and handling the alimony. No lawyer would entertain Daniel's ridiculous claims about my appearance or my prioritization of our daughter. Daniel's liability was clear, and even he, who had dismissed Lisa and me so easily, appeared vulnerable when faced with legal scrutiny. Eventually, he conceded his faults. The divorce was finalized with Daniel giving up his claim to the property. The house was officially transferred to my name, a fitting consequence of his long-standing neglect of household responsibilities. The outcome was the best for Lisa and me. Daniel, however, continued his bravado, saying, I don't need any money. I've got Amelia. You can cling to that old house until you've paid off your 35-year mortgage. I'm starting a new life. Daniel's bravado didn't last. It turned out Amelia was exactly as Lisa had described, someone who enjoyed toying with men in relationships or marriages. As soon as Daniel and I separated, Amelia lost interest and dumped him. This unexpected turn of events left Daniel floundering, stripped of his assets and his so-called true love. He came back to me, desperate to reconcile. Michelle, I'm sorry, please forgive me. You're the only one for me. I'm the only one for you, right? I was unmoved. What are you talking about? I'm exhausted from doing housework for you. Besides, I don't think I'll stay beautiful in the future. I plan to prioritize Lisa and myself from now on. I can't risk being sued for alimony again. So reconciliation is out of the question. Absolutely out of the question. The blunt rejection must have been a severe blow to Daniel. Since then, I haven't heard from him. I've moved out of the weekly rental and am now happily settled in my own home. Mortgage paid off with just Lisa's and my efforts. Lisa is preparing for college entrance exams, and I'm committed to supporting her in every way I can.